Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Pitts, and today I want to discuss with you the concept of identity, particularly the Australian national identity, and how it was formed and impacted by our Australian national flag, and methods we can take to help broaden the non-inclusive symbolism present on it, to help create a more comprehensive and cosmopolitan banner for our Commonwealth. To do this, today, we're going to be creating a brand new Australian flag. From the myriad of indigenous cultures and communities that dotted the continent prior to 1788, through the British colonial era and early Australia, all the way through the Australia of modern day, the way citizens of the Commonwealth view themselves and their communities has been shaped heavily by several actors throughout our short history, primarily the British and early Australian authorities. Whilst today, the Australian government recognises the country as multicultural due to the diversity of ethnic and cultural backgrounds within the country, with over a quarter of the population now being born overseas, the national character of the Australian nevertheless remains shaped considerably by the Anglo-Saxon settler society of the 19th and 20th centuries. From the majority language of English to our form of government, we see the influences of British-derived culture permeating down throughout history, even whilst we've become modern and multicultural, the Australian flag being a key example of this colonialist legacy. Due to our comfort with the present flag, and its century-long history serving a role of what is meant to be a physical representation of the Australian nation-state, it can sometimes be difficult to remember that when the flag was originally constructed, raised, and flown at the beginning of the 20th century, it was a manifestation of a white Dominion government which excluded many minorities, Chinese, Pacific Islander, though especially the First Peoples. The presence of the Union Jack in our flag's canton is perhaps key to what is today considered the Australian flag debate. The debate centering around the question of how we, as an ostensibly multicultural country, continue to fly a flag which is so heavily influenced by another country, the United Kingdom. Whilst the British Union Jack was perhaps more appropriate for personal use, at an earlier time when immigrants brought over their British identities to Australia, many individuals today recognise no connection between the current flag and themselves, their country, or their heritage. As a result, many now consider it necessary to change our antiquated colonial flag to one more representative of Australians' modern multicultural identity. When a person thinks of the Australian identity, what do you imagine? Mateship, the bush, the beach, meat pies, Uluru, Vegemite. Exactly what Australian characteristics can you give a new national flag to make it truly national? Well, according to the North American Vexillological Association, one of the leading organizations on vexillology, or the study of flags, there are 5 basic principles to good flag design which we're going to use to create our new flag. 1. Simplicity. 2. Meaningful symbolism. 3. Basic use of 2 or 3 colors. 4. No letters or seals. And 5. Distinctiveness or relativity. In terms of simplicity, flag creators can do a variety of different designs which you may want to experiment with. However, approaching the new national flag with a focus on distinctiveness and originality, I personally decided to take an A4 size piece of paper and ruled a line across the center to create a 2-band flag. From there, we have to move on to create meaningful symbolism, something I hope to accomplish with the effective use of 2 or 3 colors. Whilst I could simply put down red and black bands with a yellow sphere to duplicate the Aboriginal flag, which may then act as a substitute for the Union Jack, a replacement some organizations have already proposed, our goal is to develop an entirely new and distinctive flag which represents the entirety of multicultural Australia, not just those who identify as of British or Aboriginal descent. As a result, I decided to use the all-inclusive Australian national colours of green and gold to fill in the 2 bands, the gold representing the prosperity of the Australian people, and the green the bountiful nature of the land. However, something is still lacking which makes the flag truly distinctive and different from countries such as Indonesia, Poland, or Ukraine. It needs a symbol of Australia within it. As we're focusing on the national identity, you may use a number of different symbols for your own flag, ranging from kangaroos to emus to opals to even meat pies. However, for my own flag, I've decided to use the purely Australian Commonwealth star as the key device. Whilst the star on the current Australian flag represents the 6 states and the territories, I've decided to promote additional meaning behind the symbol for my own flag, that of the 7 traditional continents from which all Australians can be descendants. Whilst you may use different designs, different colours, or even different symbolism behind your own flags, I've tailored my own to represent one of the key ideals of modern Australian identity, multiculturalism and civic nationalism, the concept that anyone, regardless of their heritage, can become and influence what it means to be an Australian. As stated by Cath Woodward, flags are perhaps the most useful signifiers of national identity, a whole set of meanings condensed into one sign. by removing the elements of the current Australian flag, which represents a colonialist heritage, which many citizens feel no connection to, and then introducing new symbolism representative of the Commonwealth's diversity and pluralism, we have created a new national flag, which represents the more all-encompassing, multi-ethnic, and multicultural identity of the modern Australia.